In a vacuum, this ad scares the living shit out of me.
I think that closing ad, hell, that should have been his opening ad.
Welcome to the last episode of Campaign Experts React Before the Election. This is a series where we break down 2020 election ads and political media, explain what the people behind them are trying to accomplish, and decide whether or not they did a good job. I'm Dan Pfeiffer, former communications director for Barack Obama. Joining me today is my first ever repeat guest. Cornell Belcher is the founder of Brilliant Corners Research and Strategies, a polling firm that worked with the Obama campaigns in 2008 and 2012. Cornell Belcher, how you doing?
I'm doing crappy like everyone else, but I'm going to make it.
The theme of our show this week is about closing arguments. This is the last episode of Campaign Experts React before the election. The first ad we're going to look at is one version of what we think, and we have to kind of guess because it's not totally clear, the Trump campaign's closing message might be.
President Trump is recovering from the coronavirus, and so is America. Together, we rose to meet the challenge, protecting our seniors, getting them life-saving drugs in record time, sparing no expense. President Trump tackled the virus head-on, as leaders should.
I can't imagine that anybody could be doing more.
We'll get through this together. We'll live carefully, but not afraid.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
What do you think of this ad, Cornell?
I think that closing ad, hell, that should have been his opening ad. I mean, I think he's a little late for closing. One of the things that I know you and our friends in the industry have been commenting on from the Trump campaign is they're not running like they're the incumbent. Make America Great Again. They're not running like, I've been in charge and things are getting better. And of course, we always go to the classic Morning in America, this sort of, I'm working and things are getting better. He hasn't started off that way at all. I mean, but this ad sort of tries to bring that sort of back around. But I like this ad because it does address COVID. It does sort of have a more upbeat sort of, we can do this and get things done. The problem is it's so counter where the American people are, because Americans don't think we're recovering from COVID. Now, you and I know if you say something enough times over a period of time, it does start to sink in. But with over 200,000 Americans dead, and you look at all the polling numbers about how Americans think we're going the wrong direction on COVID, I like this ad. I would have liked this ad a lot better 3 months ago.
In a vacuum, this might be one of the best ads Trump has run. What has been so notable about his ads is he hasn't talked about the pandemic. The biggest issue that is affecting everyone in America has been notably absent. And so this one actually takes it on. There are some problems with it, as you point out, that I think are really notable. One is it's too late. The ship has sailed on the idea that the American people believe right now, as we sit here at the end of October, that the coronavirus pandemic is getting better. They do not think that. And maybe you're right, Trump possibly could have convinced some more people if he'd been running this ad at high point levels for 6 months. Yeah. But he hasn't, and so it's late. The second problem is it uses Dr. Fauci, which is clever in the sense that Dr. Fauci is one of the most trusted American voices, but on a bipartisan basis. The problem is that Dr. Fauci does not believe what Trump has him saying, so you ended up with a bunch of stories about Dr. Fauci calling for the ad to be pulled down, saying he was taken out of context. So that's one of the rules of advertising. There's a do no harm principle, right? You do not want a bunch of coverage about how the ad is wrong or out of context, or one of the people you use in it is mad about it, because then voters will hear that and discount the ad. And so we are tripping over the lowest possible bar of expectations. But this is probably one of the best ads Trump has run all cycle. It's just, it may be, we hope, knock on wood, too little, too late in terms of having a coherent COVID message. The next ad we're going to watch is a Trump campaign ad targeted at seniors that went up a few days ago.
Attention, fellow seniors. This election will determine your Medicare benefits. Under President Trump, Medicare premiums in Wisconsin have gone down 21%. But with the Biden-Harris healthcare plan, Medicare will change. Private insurance eliminated. Hospitals closed. You could even lose your doctor. Protect your Medicare coverage. Vote for President Trump. Learn more at seniorsbeware.com.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
I'm very curious to hear what you think of this ad, Cornell.
I'm going to surprise you here because I think that's an effective ad.
I agree.
I agree. Because look, I think it goes right at a target that with an issue that's important for the seniors and they're a key group. He's accomplished this, and he's going to do more. And it makes Harris Biden the bad guys. Now, some of it may be a little too boogeyman, because will seniors really think that they're going to close hospitals? sometimes you can go overboard with the boogeyman, but I think this is a good ad. But again, the advertisement has to be in sync with what the campaign is actually doing. If he had focused in on Medicare for the last 4 or 5 months, I think this would be an effective ad. It's a good ad that's being dropped into the void.
In a vacuum, this ad scares the living shit out of me because it makes me think about the campaign they could have run.
Yes.
And I think the ad is effective in several ways. One, if Donald Trump has any chance to win this election, he has to cut into the margins with seniors that Biden has built up. Medicaid, this is an excellent way to do that. This ad doesn't look like a typical political ad. It looks like an ad targeted at seniors for insurance or prescription drugs or anything else. This ad scares me in the sense of what could have been, the position we could be in if we were running against a different, more competent campaign. Now, American politics is completely fucked up. The Electoral College is very much biased in Trump's favor. So he could still win despite being a moron who's a terrible president who has run a terrible campaign. But if we were going to just for the purposes of this show, judge this one ad, I think it's the best ad the Trump campaign has run all cycle.
They did go all in on the law and order, which is the tribalism stuff, right? It is the Willie Horton play. And look, you and I both know that has been far more successful in the history of American politics than not. Do you think this is the first time that may have just been a huge strategic error?
I do. I would say there are 3 reasons for that. The first is we're in the middle of a pandemic and crime is down, right? So you're asking people to make a decision based on crime they're not seeing as opposed to a pandemic they are experiencing, right? So that's problem 1. Problem 2 is that they over-torque the rhetoric. Right? There's a way to probably make that argument, but their ads are being sort of designed for what raises money among the MAGA base or excites the Fox News viewer, as opposed to where a lot of seniors are, I think, and a lot of, more conservative and moderate white voters, is they're conflicted on all of these things, right? They have concerns about Democrats. They don't feel great about some things Trump are doing, and they didn't speak to that, right? And then the third problem is Joe Biden. Joe Biden is a 78-year-old white man who throughout the primary, every news story said he was running as a moderate. If you're going to try to paint someone as a radical Antifa super soldier, Biden is probably not the best vehicle for that message. It is easier to focus on dumb shit in less serious times, right? It's not a mistake that Donald Trump won the election at a time of peace and prosperity. It's not a surprise that George W. Bush won an election at a time of peace and prosperity. Serious times focus the mind, and it's harder to distract people from the reality.
I think it's a watershed moment, because Biden is garnering a larger support of the white vote as any Democrat has in the last 2 or 3 decades. But at the same time, Trump is doubling down on trying to drive tribalism. It seems to be having the opposite effect on so many Americans. And I think it's hopeful. I do. I think it's hopeful. And perhaps it is just that the coronavirus boogeyman has supplanted the brown boogeyman, at least for a while.
I mean, this is sort of an amazing thing to think about, but it's been 16 years since Democrats ran a white man at the top of the ticket. And so we haven't really tested this, right? It's been since Kerry in 2004. What I think will be really interesting will be how effective these things are when it's not a white man at the top of the ticket. I do think, one thing I will think, if we're looking for hope, nationally, in a national political environment, I am very confident that sort of racially divisive rhetoric cannot work. That is the majority of the country is very clearly much closer to where Democrats are than Republicans on these issues. The problem we have is in an electoral college environment that disproportionately represents not just white voters, but white non-college voters who make up the bulk of the Republican base, where that rhetoric has worked very effectively in recent years.
Yeah, and that's how Donald Trump became president. It's the fluke of our system.
2020 has been a weird year. Did I think I'd be stuck in my home for 7 months because of a pandemic? No. Did I think that a team that had Dwight Howard, J.R. Smith, and Deion Waiters would win the NBA championship? No. Did I think that this election would happen entirely over Zoom? No. Did I think I would find myself a once, maybe even respected political operative doing a YouTube show where I ended by begging people, literally begging people, to do something called smash the subscribe button so the Crooked Media's YouTube channel could have more subscribers? No, I didn't think that either. But this is where we are, and there's something we can do about it. So, as Elijah and Yo would say, smash that subscribe button. In all seriousness, I want to thank everyone for coming along for the ride, for watching this series, and for commenting and participating in the conversation about campaign ads. It's been a fascinating election, and it's been a great pleasure to talk about all of this with all of you. Okay, the last ad we're going to watch is a closing spot from the Biden campaign.
The days of divisiveness will soon be over.
Yes, a new world
We can build a more perfect union.
That belongs to you and me.
Let's get back up.
Yes, a new world's coming.
We can't believe again. What do you think about this ad in particular, but also more generally? I'm curious about your opinion of the Biden campaign's messaging and paid advertising throughout this campaign.
They're doing an awful lot in 30 seconds. There's so many images, and there's so many things that I'm voting for. I do like the feel of that ad, right? It is the optimism of America. I mean, you could have taken that ad and go back to 2012 or 2008, and that couldn't have been an Obama ad. That space is the right space for a closing ad. I just thought it was a little busy for just a 30-second spot to me. But overall, I think it's the right feel, and it's emotional tug. I think I'd have to watch that ad 3 or 4 times before I really sort of caught all of it.
You raise an interesting point about the positivity of that ad. And there has been a line that that Joe Biden and the campaign have had to walk this whole time, which is like a very real desire from a significant portion of the population for unity and healing and putting all of this insanity behind us. And also a very legitimate anger about what has happened in this country. How do you think that they have walked that line, both in this ad and throughout the campaign?
It's tough, Dan, because in a regular campaign world, we're lucky if we have 1 or 2 good hits on our opponent. You're in a target-rich environment with Donald Trump. It's too many targets. I like to lean on the side of get people juiced up to go vote for something bigger and different. Typically, I'd say, yeah, you got to continue to beat up on the incumbent, make a referendum on the incumbent, beat the hell out of them. I'm not so sure that's true this time around, given who the incumbent is.
Yeah, I think that's right. In the polling and focus groups I've seen of undecided voters, more negative information about Trump really doesn't move the needle. They sort of know that. The question is, what's the alternative? Who is that alternative, and what are they going to do? And so closing with positive, I think, is exactly what Biden should be doing. What I liked about this ad, and I agree with you that there are some elements where maybe it's busy here, it's not, the specific message may be lost. But what I like about it is very empowering of the voter, right? Mm-hmm. It is not about that Joe Biden is going to do these things. He's in the ad, but he is really in the background of the ad. The star of the ad is the viewer. This is what you are going to be able to achieve if you vote. And it's very, very much like a lot of the stuff that Barack Obama would say and do in 2008. And Bernie Sanders did this incredibly well in the primary with "It's not me, it's us." But the best way to get people to vote is to empower them, to show what their vote can do. And that's been a very hard thing to do in this campaign that's happening via Zoom and drive-in rallies. Like, you're not getting the images of cheering crowds, rallies, people going door to door. If he is able to focus on the movement, not the man, then I think he's going to be able to fire up some people who are not yet fired up.
If you look at 2016 and you look at the protest vote, all those Obama voters who broke third party because they didn't like Donald Trump, but they weren't in love with Hillary Clinton either. This ad speaks to them in a way that none of 2016 did.
Well, Conroy, thank you so much for doing this. This was fascinating. You were the one and only repeat guest in the history of the show. So I really appreciate you taking the time. Good luck down the stretch here.
Good luck to everyone. Good luck to all of us.
Yeah, good luck to America. Yes. Thanks for watching these ads and videos with us. And I'll see you all on the other side after the election.